Hello! Today we are taking a look at the 2003 Folio Society edition of The Once and Future King by D.H. White, along with the rest of my small collection of other related books by this author. The Once and Future King was originally published in 1958 as a collection of 3 novels previously published as standalone books from 1938 to 1940, and heavily revised since their first editions, along with the 4th novel first published in The Once and Future King. Those novels would be The Sword in the Stone, later adapted into a charming but slightly lacking Disney film by the same name. Secondly, The Queen of Air and Darkness, initially published in 1939 as The Witch in the Wood. Thirdly, The Ill-Made Knight, which I do not have as a standalone book, and fourthly, The Candle in the Wind, which was first published as part of The Once and Future King. As I mentioned, these were revised for The Once and Future King, part of the reason being the events of the Second World War and D.H. White's strong pacifist reaction. There was actually quite a long battle with the Collins publishing house about these revisions and the publication of the 4th book, The Candle in the Wind. And in the end, Collins agreed that they would publish revised books 1 to 4 and would not publish White's intended 5th and final part, the Book of Merlyn. As the 5th book carried the strongest anti-war message, White further revised The Sword in the Stone to include some of the most prominent anti-war scenes from the Book of Merlyn, which was posthumously released by the University of Texas Press. I apologize for my convoluted and clunky attempts to describe this messy publication history, but I will include some links in the description that may explain it more clearly for those interested. Now, the first book. Let's start from the first book. I'll come to the Once and Future King a bit later. The first book, The Sword in the Stone, was also rewritten for the American edition way before the Once and Future King was released. Some chapters were either heavily edited or completely replaced, and as far as I can tell, this is the edition used as a basis for the one included in The Once and Future King. This is why I wanted to also get a copy of the book with the text from the first UK edition. This is the 1950 St. James Library edition, illustrated by White himself, who also illustrated the first editions of the 2nd and 3rd book. If this is your first encounter with the series, I would suggest just reading The Sword in the Stone. It's strange, beautifully written, genuinely surprisingly funny, often thought-provoking, and overall a charming book. It's also short and self-contained. As you can see, the book, this particular edition, is bound in red cloth. Of course, it has sewn binding, untrimmed lower page edges, and red dye at the top page edges. Unlike The Sword in the Stone, I believe neither The Witch in the Wood nor The Ill-Made Knight were ever released again after their first UK and US editions. This is the first American edition of The Witch in the Wood, or The Queen of Air and Darkness, as it is called in The Once and Future King. I haven't been able to find out how much the UK and US versions differ, but I can tell you for certain this 1939 standalone book was extremely cut down from the 1958 collection. Again, we have White's illustrations decorating every chapter. As well as the front cover, though you can hardly see it here. As you can see, the book is in rough condition and I'm missing the dust jacket, but considering the second-hand prices, I was willing to compromise and get it for a more reasonable sum. I have no standalone edition of the third book, The Ill-Made Knight, which deals mainly with the character of Sir Lancelot, and I found no information about the differences of its text. So if any of you know more about it, let me know. And we come at last to the Once and Future King. Here I have the 1958 first edition. Sadly, it is not illustrated, which was probably intentional because of the change to a more serious tone. Although comedic moments, especially with the character of Merlin, are still present, giving the book a somewhat disorienting, inconsistent effect. In spite of that, or maybe precisely because of this strangeness, the book grew to become a fairly popular, and in 2003 it was released by Folio Society. This edition is bound in cloth, blocked in black, silver and orange by the artist John Lawrence, who also made 16 interior illustrations and one frontispiece. The end papers are bright blue and plain, and the headbands are red and yellow. The book is sewn, printed on smooth cream paper, with the illustration pages being slightly thicker than the rest. As you can probably see here. There is also a plain dark blue slipcase included. I expect Folio might release a new version of this book soon, or probably with a different artist, but who knows. As it stands now, as far as I know, this is the only illustrated edition of the Once and Future King, which is why I was drawn to it. Let me know if I'm mistaken, because I would love to see other takes on this book. And so we come to 1977, 13 years after the death of T.H. White, when the University of Texas at Austin purchased the bulk of White's personal papers and manuscripts. One of these was the original manuscript for the Book of Merlyn, and here I have the first edition fully illustrated by Trevor Subley. When Collins refused the publication of this book, White transferred 2 whole chapters of it into The Sword in the Stone, the one with the ant colony and the one about the geese, seemingly not wanting such important allegorical moments to go to waste. But he might not have done that had he known the reader's curiosity and love for his work would be strong enough to warrant a posthumous release. Well, that would be all for now. Thank you for watching. Until the next time, goodbye.